Set 15 is officially live and Mentor Mighty Mech is the comp to know. Let's break it down. Welcome. Another TFT breakdown. A brand new set is officially live. KO Coliseum. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. I'm bringing you the first guide of the set. It's an amazing one. It's Mentor Mighty Mech. We're going to break down all the specifics of it. You know the drill. Grab a coffee, grab a drink, kick back, relax, and let's break down some TFT in the new set. The good news about this set is we get to add a new chapter to our YouTube videos. Because not only are we breaking down items, we're breaking down augments, we're breaking down the final board, early game, and power-ups, the new set mechanics. So we're going to break down the best in slot power-ups for each of the main carries of this build and future builds in future videos. As always, we're going to talk about gameplay as well later in the video, but let's jump right into it. Let's start off with the power-up. Okay, so we're starting with power-ups. However, I'm going to set some ground rules on what this build actually is and how we're going to break it down. So there's two separate ones I'm going to be talking about throughout this video. One is going to be a reroll build. It's going to have a big three in Yasuo, Udyr, and Ryze. In addition to the reroll build, you can go fast 9 with this Mentor Mighty Mech tech build, whatever you want to call it. And by doing so, that's more of a Yone carry with Ryze as a secondary. We'll get into that in the future. But you just need to know those big three and the main carries and all that for these power-ups. And then we're going to dive right into the breakdown of the build. So let's start with Ryze in terms of the power-up. So Ryze is going to be one of your main damage dealers. If you 2-star them, they're absolutely broken currently in this build, and they love blue buff, you know, all those regular AP items, so we'll get to that in a bit. But for power-ups, Icebender is a good one. Icebender is a Ryze specific power-up, and essentially Ryze is frozen for the first 3 seconds of combat. Their ability chills enemies for 4 seconds, and they deal 20% bonus damage to enemies that are adjacent to the target that they chilled. This is a great power-up to use if you don't see some of the other ones. However, Keen Eye is great as well. This one, attacks and abilities ignore 40% of the enemy's magic resistance. This is essentially a free ionic spark in the terms of a power-up. Additionally, Sky Piercer is a great one, Shadow Clone, and then finally their best in-slot power-up, in my opinion, is Efficient. So when you go with the Efficient power-up, you are giving Ryze essentially more casts per round. Their abilities cost 20 less mana, and in doing so, you're casting essentially non-stop with this power-up. So it is a must-take if you find it with Ryze. Otherwise, any of the other ones work. You can even play around with the power-ups. There's nothing set in stone currently. It is the first guide of the season here, or of the set. So take this information with what you will, and use the power-ups to the best of your ability. Fool around with it. But Efficient, Sky Piercer, Keen Eye, Icebender, they all work pretty well with Ryze. Okay, we're going to merge both Yone and Yasuo together, as these two are going to be your main carries in opposite builds. The reroll build Yasuo, the fast 9 build is Yone, and they essentially like the same power-ups for the most part, as they both kind of do damage the exact same way. So what we're going to go over is their best in slot to start. Their best in slot is Unflinching. So what Unflinching does is it allows for both Yone or Yasuo to gain 15% Omnivamp and immunity to crowd control. So by doing this, the immunity to crowd control is only 12 seconds long, but it's essentially a free QSS. So the best power-ups that you can use are utility power-ups, providing essentially a third item that you normally would want to put on your carry late in the game, like a QSS, or like we mentioned, a Ionic Spark for Ryze on the front line to help provide the maximum amount of damage possible. So utility power-ups are best. However, there's a lot more other ones you can do. I like warming up with Yasuo. What warming up does is at combat start, it activates and you gain 48 armor and magic resistance. Every second, you convert 3 of those resists into 3% attack damage up to the initial 48. So essentially, you convert those armor, you're a little stronger early on in the round. Later in the round, you have more attack damage, so you do more damage. So essentially helps you survive early on, and I personally like it on either of those carries. Additionally, Final Boss is a great power-up, where you just gain 10 Omnivamp. Whenever an ally dies, you get 4% stacking at damage amp. So it's a nice mix of damage as well as survivability. All 3 of those work really well. If you find them, slam them on those carries, and you should be smooth sailing, especially with this build and how strong it is. So that's the gist of it for power-ups. You're going to want it essentially on one of your AD carries and one of your AP carries. You can use tank ones. The one that changes you into a dummy there what is it called? Round 2. It's called round 2. And essentially when you die, you turn into a training dummy and you're equipped with the items and it has a certain percentage of your health. That is a great one for tanks. However, you want to prioritize your carries. I find that those are the best power-ups to use. Your carries need that extra utility or damage that you can put on them. Okay, now we're looking at final boards here. We're going to start with the reroll build. I personally am a reroll player. I love playing reroll builds. I just find them a lot more rewarding when you can actually hit, and the damage that they can do against the 4 cost, 5 costs when you have a stacked out 2 cost, 3 cost, 3-star max items and it's just annihilating boards. Just something I really enjoy. So let's start off with that. It is a level 7 reroll build. Essentially what you're going for is 3 mecha or mighty mechs and then 4 mentors. The 4 mentor is currently strong. There's a bunch of builds out there with that incorporate 4 mentor. So it's going to be kind of tough to 3-star them in certain lobbies. However, if you are uncontested and you can go for this reroll build, I highly encourage it. It's a great, strong build currently in this initial patch when the game comes out. So for this build, the 4 mentors are Yasuo, Udyr, Kabuko, and Ryze. In addition to the 4 mentor, the 3 mighty mechs that you have here are Gangplank, Senna, and Aatrox. So having those combos together, you don't have to worry too much about tank items. You can slam them on your Udyr, the ones that you get, but the mighty mech extra unit that you get serves as a nice addition to your front line, and it allows your Ryze essentially to gain enough ramping up to do enough damage throughout the rounds. So it is a level 7, like I mentioned, reroll build. So it is for the 3 costs. You want to 3-star your Yas and your Udyr. Both are kind of crucial for this build if you're sticking to the reroll build, as your main damage is going to be coming from Ryze in the backline and Yas up front. Yas is the priority. You're going to put your power up on Yas and Ryze. Those are going to be the key units there, like I mentioned in the power up section. But for Yas, the items, they can vary, because if you do get a Yone, you can transition the items onto Yone. But if you 3-star the Yas, you just keep it on there for now. Chances are at the level 7 reroll build, you're not getting a 2-star Yone. We'll talk more about Yone in the other build, the Fast 9 version of this composition. So for Yas, you're going to put Bloodthirster, Sterix, and Titans. They work really well with Yas. You can also sub some of those out, such as IE, Hodge, Edge of Night. They all work well as well. You can kind of combo them together. One healing item, one damage item, one sustain item, stuff like that. But they all work in unison. Whatever you can kind of make, throw it on there. Yas does heavy damage with those items, along with the certain power-ups that you get with extra Omnivamp or the extra QSS. They're fairly strong here. Your main damage dealer, however, is going to be Ryze. So as you're rolling down to level 7, chances are you are going to see a Ryze. Hopefully you can 2-star them, fingers crossed. Once you 3-star your Yas and your Udyr, that's when you level to 8 and then roll it down to get that 2-star Ryze, as Ryze does damage. Especially with certain power-ups like we mentioned, they do a lot of damage in this build. You're going to want blue buff, Rabadons, Archangels. You can even do JG on Ryze in addition to Striker's Flail. I always want to call it Guard Breaker still, but Striker's Flail is a must on Ryze. Now, those are your 2 damage dealers. Udyr is going to take majority of your tank items if you have any. It's going to Spirit, I keep calling it Spirit Visage. I think it's called Anima Visage now. You can do Warmogs, Sunfires, Declaw, Brambles. Anything works good there. Everybody else is essentially a trait bot. You have Senna providing Executioner for Ryze, and then you have Aatrox up front, Kabuko up front, Gangplank up front, providing that duelist buff. So that is essentially your build. It's going to be Yas up front with Gangplank. You're going to have Udyr, Aatrox, Kabuko, then Senna and Ryze in the backline. That's all you need if you're 3-starring your Yas and your Udyr. That build will guarantee you a top 4 currently the way it is at the start of set 15. Okay, so the next build is essentially similar, very similar to the original one, but it's not a reroll build. You're still going to have the 4 mentor, you're going to have the Yas, you're going to have the Kabuko, you're going to have the Ryze, and you're going to have the Udyr. But the only difference is instead of 3 mighty mech, you're going to have 5. So in addition to the regular Senna, the regular Aatrox, and the regular Gangplank, I'm still learning them as well, it's the beginning of the set, you are going to add 2 more. The 2 more you're going to add are Jarvan and Yone. So once you get a Yone, you're going to transition those Yas items onto Yone because in this version of the build, you're not going to have a 3-star Yas. So the damage that you get out of Yone is exponentially better than a 2-star Yas. So you transfer the items over to Yone and you watch Yone work their magic. So same items essentially as Yas. That's why it's so easy to transfer over to Yone. You can add Bloodthirster, Sterix, Titans. You can do the Edge of Night Hodge IE. That works well as well. Both those variations are very, very good on Yone. So regardless, have them up front next to Yas. You can do it left side, right side, whatever. You can transition the positioning late game depending on your opponent's boards as well. But have it in the front line to maximize the damage and make sure you put the power up on Yone. If you had it on Yas, make sure you take that off. Again, very similar power-ups like we mentioned, so shouldn't be too hard. You may not, depending on the power-up text and the mechanics, you may not see the same ones as repeats and duplicates, so you may have to remove it a few times there to get what you want. But any of the S-tier power-ups that you see on other guide websites or the ones I mentioned, they work perfectly fine on Yone. Now with this build, because it's a fast 9, just want to note as well, Ryze same items in this situation here. And then you can start itemizing your Yas in addition to the Yone as you progress and get extra items throughout the game. But because this is a fast 9 build, the key here is augments. We're going to touch on augments in a little bit, but econ augments are the way to go. If you get a strong econ augment or even a strong win streak at the beginning of the game, that's when you know you can push to fast 9 instead of going to that reroll build, because the 2-star Yas can sustain you with that early health that you saved in the early game. That's the best case scenario for this fast 9 build and why you should go the fast 9 build in those certain game situations. As you have the extra health, you might as well go for that 2-star Yone. It makes a huge difference in getting first versus fourth with the reroll build, but every game's different and you can kind of see how the game goes if you start off with the Mentor Mighty Mechs and you see how many Yasas you're getting early, what your econ's looking like, what your health's looking like, did you win streak, lose streak at the beginning. All that changes your decision making late game on whether you go reroll or you go for the fast 9. So play it by ear, play it by game, see which route you want to go. If you're locked into the Mentor Mighty Mech tech or composition, then all is good. You just have to choose between reroll or going fast 9. And you can make that choice later down the road when you actually hit level 7 and you can see how much health you have. Okay, we're getting started with the augment section now. So for the fast 9 build, like I mentioned, econ augments are king. You want prismatic or gold, even silver, regardless. Take an econ augment. Silver Spoon works really well for silver. You can also go late game specialist, where you get 33 gold at level 9. Those work wonders in silver if you are going for that fast 9 composition. For gold, Slammin' is a good one. You could do forward thinking, even calculated loss. If you're going to go for a bit of a loss streak early on, you get the extra rerolls, you get the extra gold. They work wonders. For prismatic augments, you can go hedge fund, you can go invested plus, whatever those augments are called. Level up, you can go as well, where you get the additional XP whenever you buy them. Upward mobility works great as well. That's a solid one. Those econ augments are the way to go with the fast 9 build early on. Obviously, you're going to need some combat augments later on in the game. Any strong combat augments work. However, your key early game is those econ augments to decide whether you're going to go the fast 9 or that reroll build if your heart's content on this current build right here, the Mentor Mighty Mech build. But if you know you want to max your board and you want to go for that high cap game and you're not a big reroll player, then econ augments are a must early on. So at that first augment choice, if you get a solid econ augment like the ones mentioned, take it, go for it with that fast 9 build in mind. All right, augments for the reroll build. Now, econ augments work well as well for the reroll build. You could do the heroic grab bag to help 3-star the Yas, the Udyr. However, there are some better ones here. One we haven't talked about is called Teacher's Council. This is the mentor specific augment and it is amazing with this broken build currently. Essentially, let me read it out for you what it does. Mentor bonuses are increased by 25% and granted to your team regardless of how many mentors you play. Gain an Udyr. This lets you essentially play mentor before that specific 4 or 1 kind of threshold where you can only play 1 or 4 to get the bonuses. This lets you play 2 or 3 throughout the build and get those bonuses as well. And it is increased by 25%. So this is a really strong augment for this build. If you see it, take it. No matter what, even if it's the first one and you have an econ augment that you're going up against, take this one, because regardless if you go the reroll build or the fast 9 with this augment, it increases your likelihood of finishing first. Now, other ones are keepers. Keepers works really well, both silver and gold. In addition to that, I really like trifecta. As a prismatic augment, trifecta is key, especially for this reroll build, as if you're going for that Udyr and Yas as your main tank, main carry, then essentially the extra attack speed that you gain with those three cost champions, as well as just the health, is efficiently key in this build. And that's kind of what you want out of your build for a strong combat augment. So I highly recommend trifecta as a prismatic augment if you're able to find it while playing this build. All right, and that's a gist of this first build breakdown guide. Essentially, a couple quick things to note as well regarding this build specifically. If you don't find a Yas early, you can put items on your gangplank if you find a gangplank, or Darius is fairly strong currently. I believe they received a little bit of a nerf, but you can still play them with the items before you get your Yasuo. Before you get the Yas, Darius is a good item holder. You can go something like Nefiri, even Gangplank, like I mentioned. They can hold your Yas items. Throw it on them until you hit the Yas and your Udyr, and then you're smooth sailing through the mid game. Again, key if you're going to go the level 9 build is managing your gold, managing the health. It's a lot trickier than the reroll build, but both work exceptionally well. So you could go either or, and you're going to almost guarantee yourself a top 4 every single time, pending different circumstances within the games. So let's jump into the gameplay for the last little bit of this video and break down how I did with this build in set 15. Okay, so this is the gameplay portion. It's a really short portion of this video. As you can see, we're about to hit top 4. Fingers crossed, or spoilers, I guess, at this point, that we actually hit top 4 in this match here. I just want to mention, sorry for the zooms in on the thumbnails. You know I need my thumbnail picks, so I'm zooming into Ryze, zooming into Yone here. But essentially, this game, I was able to get 5 Mighty Mech. I didn't go, as you can see, for the reroll build, for the Yas or the Udyr. I instead, because I had 2 eco augments, and I don't recommend that for most games. Most games, I do prefer extra combat augments. As you can see, or as you saw from my previous augment selection, I was unsure of what to pick because everything sucked and I needed a combat augment. So I went with a combat augment that was available to me. It wasn't the greatest. I wish I could have had better, but that's my own fault for picking 2 econ augments. However, it got me to level 9. It got me in top 4 here by getting, as you see here, I currently have a 1-star Yone with only 1 item on them. I played the remover game in this gameplay that you saw, so I was really out of removers. I was having to sell my Gangplank and even my 2-star Jarvan. Maybe I could have 3-starred my Jarvan, but I felt items were more important to get me into that top 4 currently because I was already low on health. So that sell was kind of huge in my opinion, something you don't do every day, but I was out of removers. I needed to move some items. It had to be done. Now we secured top 4 here. Essentially with this build, I found once you hit a 2-star Yone like I am in this round, you really come online. So they are exceptionally strong. I do choose to power up Yone. I forget which power up I get. I think it's the best in slot 1 here. Yes, it's unflinching. I just take that as soon as possible because that is the best one here. And even with 2 items, you're going to see how much work Yone puts into the damage. I don't actually think I beat this guy. So this is the guy who actually ends up winning. So I spoke too soon. This guy with the 3-star Malphite is just extremely strong. But I ended up finishing second with the 2-star Yone. It beat out every other board, and it will beat out every other board, except for those few unique builds that kind of end up beating you in the long game if you take too long to come online, or if you have shitty augments like myself. My augments were horrible, so I can't really put this on anything other than the augments. When you play this build, make sure you get some combat augments late game as well, as combat is what separates first from second, second from third, third from fourth, and so on and so forth. So make sure you have those good combat augments in addition to your econ if you're going this fast 9 build. Another key thing to note before this video comes to a close is to ensure you get the best Ryze power-ups. And another good one for Ryze is Shadow Clone, I believe it's called, where it has that empowered hex. But efficient is best in slot for Ryze. But the trick is, if you have somebody with the same traits, so if you have somebody like Ori that you put in, and then you power them up and sell them, that gets rid of some of the shittier or crappier power-ups before you power up your Ryze. This lets you almost guarantee a more solid power-up for your Ryze. So you can do that. You can put the power-ups on other units, then sell them. After you sell them, you put it on your Ryze or your Yone that shared a trait with that previous champion that you sold, and you have a better odd to get a good power-up. Now, this round we end up losing to that guy I said I was going to win. So that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the first guide breakdown video. Let me know how this build's faring for you. If you've got this far in the video, please subscribe and like the video. It helps a lot. And stay tuned for everything Set 15 related in the days and weeks to come. I'm bringing you all the guides possible. See you on the next one.